Hi, my name is Kokernot. Welcome once again to my channel. Today I'm going to explain why A Course in Miracles is, in my view, the most complete and logical take on human psychology that has ever been written. To understand the intricacies of human psychology, it's important to understand the concept of an unconscious mind. Sigmund Freud is still considered today the most influential psychologist that ever lived, besides Jesus, of course. And Freud estimated that our minds are more than 95% unconscious. What that means is that their workings are hidden from our view. Think about blind spots in your rearview mirrors while you're driving, and try to imagine driving a car around with so many blind spots that only 5% of the world around you is showing up in your perception. Imagine how impaired you would be if you were only relying on your vision while driving this car. Well, that is essentially what A Course in Miracles, along with Freud, is saying about our vision on the world, that we only see a very small portion of it. There is some reverse engineering necessary once we have determined that 95% of the workings of our psyches are hidden from our worldview. There are two ways that I know of to discover the contents of the unconscious mind: dreams and triggers. Freud's general attitude towards dreams was that they were expressions of unconscious wish fulfillment. Both Freud and his contemporary, Carl Jung, did a lot of dream analysis in their careers. Freud was fairly preoccupied with the sexual impulse, and he often reduced everything in dreams of his and his clients down to some neurosis around sex. Jung, on the other hand, was very fascinated by the similarities in the symbols in various mythologies, religious stories, and even fairy tales. So he came to believe that there was a collective unconscious, coined the term archetypes, to describe the manifestation of different energies, like the mother energy, the father energy, or the trickster energy, just to name a few, into physical symbols. And Jung would analyze the contents of his own unconscious mind based on these symbols that showed up in his dreams. His followers in depth psychology refer to this as shadow work. What A Course in Miracles added to the lexicon is that concept that the very life we're living, that which we refer to as our reality, is actually a dream itself, pouring out of our unconscious mind collectively through the mechanics of projection. This diagram basically shows what's happening. In the unconscious mind, there's something like a movie projector, which projects all the wishes there onto a screen in front of us, thereby showing us a world that we ourselves wished into existence. But again, it's all happening from the unconscious mind, so we don't see ourselves wishing for these things. We just see the effects projected outward, and we got fooled into thinking the images were real. Now let's talk a little about the other way of shedding light on the contents of the unconscious mind. That would be unpacking our triggers. And this is what A Course in Miracles is asking us to do. Here's a quote from the text. "That was the first projection of error outward. The world arose to hide it, and became the screen on which it was projected, and which was drawn between you and truth. For truth extends inward, where the idea of loss is meaningless and only increase is conceivable. Do you really think it strange that a world in which everything is backwards and upside down arose from this? It was inevitable, for truth brought to this could only remain within quiet and take no part in all the mad projection by which this world was made." End quote. He's saying here that when we're looking out at the world around us, what we're seeing is a reflection of the contents of our hidden belief system. When we're triggered by something out there in the world, it's a sign that we ourselves secretly believe it. And this is a really important and, whatever it represents to us is not in alignment with the truth about us. Most of our triggers can be reduced to an unconscious belief that we are unworthy, guilty, or in most cases, both. The symbols that we see can be reverse engineered to give us clues as to the basis for which we have come to believe that we are unworthy or guilty. Our triggers are showing us what we hide from ourselves. They're showing us how we believe we don't measure up. These unconscious measuring sticks, which I refer to as false measuring sticks for worthiness, can include things like I'm only worthy if I work really hard, I'm only worthy if I'm liked by those around me, or I'm only worthy if my body is super attractive, just to name a few of them. The triggers happen to let us know what our false beliefs about ourselves are. We wouldn't get triggered by them if we didn't already believe them. And now we have some knowledge of the contents of our unconscious mind, and of which beliefs that are hidden in there we would benefit from letting go of. Of course, none of us would say, yes, I wish to see a world filled with famine, with murder, with war, with sickness, and with death. Who in their right minds would wish for so many fearful images? That doesn't make any sense. But if we store all of our beliefs in our own unworthiness and guilt in the unconscious minds, then it does make sense that we see so much ugliness and suffering in the world, because we unconsciously believe that we don't deserve happiness. We don't see images that would bring us happiness. So the central objective of Jesus in dictating the course to Helen Schuckman was to convince us that we are still invulnerably innocent, despite all the things we think we've done in our past to make ourselves guilty or unworthy. Since it all happened in a dream, it has no effect whatsoever on reality. Listen to this quote. A major tenet in the ego's insane religion is that sin is not error, but truth, and it is innocence that would deceive. Purity is seen as arrogance, and the acceptance of the self as sinful is perceived as holiness. And it is this doctrine that replaces the reality of the Son of God as his Father created him and willed that he be forever. Is this humility, or is it rather an attempt to wrest creation away from truth and keep it separate? End quote. In today's world, about the most blasphemous thing anyone could say would be, I am innocent. It would be opening myself up to attack, but that is exactly what Jesus is telling us we are, and he's explaining it in his book, How We Came to Forget It. It didn't help that the religion that formed in his name misinterpreted and distorted the meaning of his crucifixion. It's told us that he died for our sins. Jesus says in the chorus that his crucifixion was God's plan, and one that he himself signed on to demonstrate to us that life is eternal. Thus, the promise he kept to his disciples that they would see him again in the flesh after 3 days. It is reasonable to assume, I think, that Jesus waited to deliver A Course in Miracles until we had a pretty good understanding of these psychological concepts, like the unconscious mind, dreams, and projection, to try to explain again the truth to us. When he walked the earth 2,000 years ago, he used parables like the prodigal son to explain these psychological concepts. But now that we have a new language built around psychology, he can say things more directly and hopefully be understood this time. All of these concepts, sickness, death, conflict, special love, they're just inventions of our ego, of the unconscious wish that we could find happiness as separate selves. They were invented to hide the truth about ourselves from ourselves. The truth is very simple. Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. But because the ego has made everything really, really complicated through all of its divisions of things, Jesus needed to write a book that was pretty long so that we can unlearn all the things we thought were true about ourselves and the world. Thank you for watching today, and I wish for you a day full of blessings and miracles, and I'll see you again soon. Bye for now.